An alpha is resourceful. Building on an attitude of responsibility, he figures things out independently. Not necessarily alone, but by his own ambitious drive to get things handled. He takes full advantage of tools and resources that are available to him in his pursuit of worthy goals. When he obtains resources, he protects them and multiplies them. He understands the concept of leverage and knows the uncommon wisdom that leads him toward financial prosperity. He's a master of knowing where to find and how to use instruments to get him where he's going and to get what he needs. Today we discuss being a man of resourceful energy with a dude who is extraordinary in his ability to navigate resources and multiply them.
If you're a man that controls his own destiny, a man that is always in the pursuit of being better, you are in the right place. You are responsible. You are strong. You are a leader. You are a force for good. Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.
Welcome back to the Alpha Quorum Show. Brad Singletary here. You guys, I'm so excited. You don't even know how much anticipation I've had in being here tonight with this guest. First of all, we have Taco Mike back in the back in the HQ over here. And
what's up, you glorious bastards?
I want to introduce our guest here a little bit. First, by talking about the fact that he's one of the original members of the Alpha Quorum on the Facebook group. He was nominated as the Alpha Quorum Man of the Year in 2020. And he was awarded recently the Father of the Year Award for 2020. And if you're not a part of our Facebook group, you've got to check that out. Man, I think there's 14 or 1,500 men from all over the world. I think 39 countries. And there's some pretty great discussion there. But there we shared a little video by our guest's two sons who talked about some of the things that they appreciate with him. And part of that was to give a little something to this guy. I think he already has a shirt. One of the first guys to order one of our.
I do. I have a shirt.
They're kind of dumb. Those shirts, I would totally do that different now.
Is it like an early version?
Yeah, it's just the material. It's just, they don't fit right.
You were figuring it out.
Yeah, just figuring it out. So the same is true with this hat. And I actually have some other hats being printed, but I have a hat and a little plaque that we'll take a picture of you later. And then this card here, Mike, if you want to pass those things down to him.
Oh, you want to do it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't see this. But we have a $10,000 gift card right here to some woman's boutique. What is this, Chico's? You're going to really enjoy that. And then a very badass Alpha Quorum hat, Alpha Up. Brad does a really good job with the swag. You should, we'll put some pictures up. But
for those of you that don't know that,
Brad does high level swag.
If you don't know that, Mike invented the term Alpha Up, and I've got it in my office. I have this in little places. It's like in my bathroom. When I take a piss, there's a sign that says Alpha Up, and I'm trying to piss better every time I.
You're trying to up that game?
Yes.
Well, you credit me, but I don't know that it wasn't maybe Jeremy or Derek or.
I'm pretty sure it was you, dude. It's some spontaneous thing how you always kind of come up with this stuff. So very happy to have our guest here tonight. He's going to share some things. We're going to record actually 2 episodes. He's going to talk about his family, his business highlights. Just want to welcome warmly Justin Mackie. Thanks for being here, dude.
Big J.
Thanks, Brad.
We've been trying to get this for like 6 months. My introduction to Justin was when we really started the Facebook page. That was right about the time the Corona thing hit. And I wanted to get outside more, and I hadn't been very active. So I was asking some guys some things, and this dude was like, "Hey, I've got a bike. You want to borrow a mountain bike?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I clicked on his picture, and it said he lived in Henderson. And so I'm like, okay, he's got some junk in his garage he wants to give me. And so he gave me directions to his house. Never met me before. Never had a conversation. He says, "Come on over, man. I'd love to get you on 2 wheels and come check out and see if this will work for you." And so he loans me this like $5,000 bike, this really nice mountain bike. And I rode it for, 2 or 3 weeks, and just nothing crazy. I didn't want to hurt myself, but just up here in the foothills down here in Henderson. And it was just so cool to meet him that way. He just opened himself and he said, "I've got something. If you can use it, come take it." And he just let me drive away with his this cool mountain bike. And it was a good experience. And I still haven't bought one. But when I get in the market, I'll consult you for that, Justin. But thanks for being here again. Now, Mike and Justin are buddies. I don't know, as a means of introduction, Mike, if you have any cool, I don't know, some props or any kind of opinions of this guy here.
I'm trying to remember exactly how I ran across you, but I've told Justin before, and I'll say this again. He's probably the only person that I would, when the movie is made of my life, and we're probably in negotiations with some movie producers right now to make that happen. When there is a movie made of my life, Justin's probably the only person that I would authorize to play me. And that's
flattering.
That's awesome.
That's I don't know that I've ever said that to anyone else.
So I don't remember how I stumbled on it, but we met. I actually called you just out of the blue. I messaged you on Facebook. I was like, I want to talk to you. And you were like, who's this guy?
Was it through the Alpha Quorum? Did we already sort of have some connection happening through that?
No.
It wasn't, because I don't even think that Facebook group existed.
It wasn't even in existence yet.
Yeah, it didn't happen yet.
You were doing Taco Motoco here in town. I think that was pretty new. And, I have KTMs and ride dual sport. And I saw what you were doing kind of in this. We were crossing paths on Facebook.
That's right.
And it was like local moto stuff.
That's right. I was seeing that you were doing some cool stuff out there. You were probably seeing the same. And then I kind of think that's.
And I reached out, and I think actually I reached out about getting involved with your Baja, your taco tours, because I wanted to, get my business involved with taco tours. And I think that's actually with the phone call I made, and we started the conversation that way.
It might've been.
So, yeah.
I'm glad your memory's better than mine.
That's awesome that you started it that way, that you just reached out to someone that you saw had something that was interesting. And we're going to be talking about resourcefulness tonight. And that's a cool thing that probably takes that for a man to be able to just open your mouth. And I mean, it's an introduction.
You got to take the up.
And how many opportunities really stem from just pleasant conversation or, introducing yourself. Before we get started, man, Justin, real quick, tell us about, your family. You own a business. Talk about your personal life a little bit.
Got two boys. They're age 10 and 12. And, like everybody says about their kids, they're wonderful. And mine are. Married 13 years. My wife's name is Rochelle. She's born and raised here in Henderson, which is why I live in the scorched earth here.
Hendertucky.
For
those who don't know, Hendertucky here, Henderson is just like a outside edge of town, suburb of Vegas.
Yeah. There's no pine trees. There's no water. No.
Why are we here?
No black dirt. No one should actually live here. So I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally, and I moved down here. I was going to be down here temporarily, and I planned to be here for a year or two. This was 15, 16 years ago, and I met my wife and got married and had kids, and her family's here. So
seems like guys usually live where their wife is from. I actually knew a guy who his parents said he paid all the kids. He said, "We'll give you $10,000 for your wedding if you marry someone from Las Vegas." They didn't want him to. They didn't want him to go out into
bonus.
Well, I mean, a woman's parents, is an important thing. Having that unit together, close. I mean, I get to go do a lot of fun stuff, and the only way I get to do that is my wife has that support system. If she was sitting at home on the couch waiting for me to get home, most of my fun stuff wouldn't be happening.
Did they like you, or had they been mad at her for 15 years?
Oh no. I think we're good. I've never asked, but I think we're
sure
good.
We're about to find out.
Yeah. So we're talking about resourcefulness, and specifically, we want to talk about some financial things, but talk about your business a little bit. This is kind of your area here, your wheelhouse.
Yeah. I'm a financial advisor. That's what it says on my business card, but that's a pretty broad term. You can go down to Wells Fargo or any bank, and there's a guy down there that you can buy stocks or bonds from that's a licensed financial advisor. I have some SEC licenses that allow me to talk to people and help people buy different securities and manage portfolios. And I choose to do that in my business, specializing in private equity. So private equity is investments that are outside of the stock market. There's a whole other world outside of the public stock market where people can invest mostly in real estate. I do mostly in real estate, lots of big institutional grade apartments and help people invest in that space. That's what I focus on in my business. And yeah, that's what we do.
I can't wait to hear what we're going to learn from you. I don't know if any of you know Lewis Howes, but he wrote a book called The School of Greatness, and he has a podcast that's been very successful. But he talked about, educating himself through conversations that he records. And I think that's probably why I'm motivated to do this, because I think men need to know this, but so do I. I'm just a typical idiot who doesn't know what he's doing in life. And so I appreciate you being here, man. So resourcefulness, this is one of the red 9 topics, and I just want to hit those real quick, and then we'll jump into the discussion here. So he figures it out. An alpha figures it out. He leverages his available resources. He recognizes himself as the resource. So he's increasing his knowledge and talent and skills. He masters tools of every kind. He acquires and multiplies assets, uses the keys of prosperity, and he's self-reliant and prepared for likely hardships. So in general, Justin, and you, Taco Mike, jump in here on any of this. In general, what's your attitude about being resourceful and figuring things out? I know the fun you guys have, and I know the kinds of, I've seen your garages, both of you, and I know what you got going on, but what's your attitude about being resourceful, figuring things out?
Some of the most influential men that I've ever known, they all have a common trait, which is jack of all trades, master of nothing. And I think that men who are jacks of all trades, master of nothing, they're not afraid to dive into something new. They're not afraid to learn a new skill. That's how they got to that place in their life. And I think you can start that in your life at any given time. I see a lot of people that are resistant to learning new things, or they think that they can't do it. Whether it's mechanical, it's a bike, or whether it's a car, or whether it's sheetrock in a house. Everything that you can go to Home Depot and buy, or you can go to Cycle Gear and buy, or buy from Taco Moto, was built for a human with hands and feet to install, take apart. I mean, that's what it was made for. And everybody, I think if people are just open to learning how to do more things, they can be a better jack of all trades, master of nothing.
I love the idea that, laziness is kind of that's where invention is created. And I think about whoever invented the wheel, they had to get sick of what was going on. And so maybe frustration leads resourcefulness sometimes. Any thoughts on that, Mike? Just how do you see your obligation or your opportunity to figure things out?
Somehow I fell down the rabbit hole on YouTube of like farmers. There's a couple of farmers out there who have these very, very informative, they're not very entertaining. They're super dry and boring really, but it's just sort of like this documentary style YouTube video, one of these YouTube channels. And it's this farmer. And he just basically is like talking about and showing the mundane realities of being a friggin' farmer. And he's in the tractor and he's like got his selfie camera. He's got his little GoPro up and he's like, just talking through like this button does that. It's freaking fascinating. And then the tractor breaks. This dude has to be an electrician. He's got to be an electrical engineer because it could be an electrical problem with one of the machines. It could be hydraulic. It could be a jack drive. It could be any number. It could be a bolt, something sheared off. And he's out there by himself, maybe with a helper, maybe with his wife or a kid. And anything he hires out and has to like subcontract out, that's money out of his pocket. And so a farmer is a guy, I use this as a representative. A farmer is a guy, and then he's also, so look at the ways that a farmer is emblematic of what Justin's talking about. He's also a banker. He's got to finance his plant. He's got to do payroll. He's got property taxes. He's got equipment, maintenance. He's got loans on the land possibly. He's got investors in his operation. He's repairing things. He's lining up the crops for next year. He's buying the seed. He's getting the fertilizer guy lined out, like all of this stuff. He's negotiating prices for the harvest. It's hard for me to think of anyone who's more potentially spread thin. Now, this is a guy who is getting, plus he's got to raise his kids, be a husband, and all these things. It's not always a man. It could be a woman who's doing all this. The other thing too, just a quick aside, is there's this organization that is, if you want a good cry, send me an email and I'll send you a link to these videos. It's this group that when a farmer is in trouble, when he is sick or injured, these other retired farmers, and not always retired, but these other farmers, they will rally, swoop in, and then carry the load of the operation until this guy's back on his feet. It's utterly gut-wrenching, like the stories that they tell and then the work that they do. I'm going on a tangent here, but here's the punchline. To live a life where you are so many things really is to have a very deep and resourceful toolkit and to be able to provide value into your family, into your community, into the people that you're with. And I just use that farmer, that example. I'm not a farmer and I don't know personally any farmers, but if just to finish out with how Justin framed that, if I'm jack of all trades, I'm capable of living a life that is, I'm qualified and I'm skilled at a ton of things because that's what's demanded of me in life. I don't get to live a life where all I do is think about one thing all day. And that's all that life affords me. Like I live such a great sheltered life that all I have to do is, think about one thing all day long. That is not my life. I have to think about 72 different things during the day. And then tomorrow it's going to be a different 41 things. And then the next day it'll be 27 different things. So if I don't have the ability to adapt and then overcome, I am not alpha and I'm not a use to myself or to anyone else.
Yeah. Well said.
Some of that is you're saying out of necessity, this, the farmer as the example, he would have to do that, but there's also the belief that he can. Think of all the new problems that come up and he's just believing, all right, I guess I need to figure this one out. And he just takes off and he heads for it. You mentioned tools, Mike. I'm curious about how you guys find tools. You're both handy people. Again, I've been in your garages. I know what kind of machines you operate in life in general. Where do you learn about tools and what tools do you have? What are the things that you're using? I asked in the Facebook group one time, I asked some guys about that and almost no one responded. Maybe it was the wrong time of day. I don't know. But what are the tools you use for your life to be resourceful, to figure it out?
The most important tool in my life is people, is relationships. And I think that everything that we do in our lives, it sounds cliche, but it boils down to how you manage relationships in your life and who you build relationships with and, who you keep up in a relationship with. That's the best tool I could ever think of because everything else is replaceable. People aren't. Knowing people, being of value to others means that when you need them, they'll be of value to you.
Dang. That's the secret. That's how you can fly planes and go all over the world with motorcycles and do all that kind of stuff. You mentioned two things, and how we both know you was a matter of you're initiating a relationship. You didn't know me. I was this guy saying, what can I do in the desert heat during coronavirus?
Yeah.
And you invited me into a relationship with you, which I hope to see continue. But same thing with Mike. You approached him and you built something, and it sounds like that's been valuable to both of you. Tools, Mike. What kind of tools?
Well, Justin, hashtag nailed it, because probably the most important asset anybody can. So a tool is just a resource. Money is a tool. A tool is a tool. There's so many things you could call a tool. You could be a tool, right? So I hope we're using in the right term or in the best term. The way I envision a tool is there's the thing and then the user. And so a tool sitting on a bench is worthless without a craftsman. So maybe to use Justin's great answer, I could have a ton of people in my life that are very sharp tools, right? Very useful tools. If I'm terrible at understanding the value of relationships and terrible at maybe even negotiating and managing relationships, then none of those tools may all as well be like dull knives stuck in the ground, rusting away. They're doing me no good. They're no value to me and where I want to go in my life. However, if I become a craftsman, I think maybe to even continue further with what Justin said, if I first and foremost become a craftsman, how to manage relationships, maybe it's possible, it's entirely possible that the rest of that everything else will take care of itself. Is that too big of a stretch? Is that too big of a?
I think you're right. I think it really does. The analogy you talked about with the farmer, that farmers group, that farmers group that swoops in when that guy gets down, that's a perfect example of everything works out. If you have a big enough tribe and you keep your tribe sharp enough and you provide value to them, then when in your time of need, they'll be there.
No question asked. No questions asked. Those guys swoop in.
Yeah.
You're a farmer. You're in our tribe. You're in a hurt. Then we're there.
And they're proud to do it. They're elated to do it.
They are living. They are dedicated to that.
They don't want to see ill will upon anybody, but they're waiting for the phone call. And they love it.
That's so awesome. What I'm hearing is that every tool is available. I like your distinction, Mike, between talking about there's the tool and then there's the user. Every tool that you could possibly need, it's already exists. But you have to know that it's there. You got to want it. You have to, at AutoZone, they'll borrow you any tool that you have. You can loan it to your friends, your neighbors. There's tools everywhere. There's a book and a YouTube video on just about anything, but it means engagement. That's a whole nother topic we're going to talk about later. But the resource so often is a person or a group of people. That's a central message that we have, is that you need some dudes in your life. You need people to ask, hey, how would you handle this? I've got this going on in my marriage. I have this broken on my dirt bike. Tell me, what would you, where would you lead me on that? Those tools are out there. It's just a matter of implementing the tool.
That's the through line of the Alpha Quorum right there, is that everything any dude listening to this needs in his life is already there. It's hidden in plain sight. Every problem that I have, I could say this for myself personally. Every problem that I've ever had and every issue that I have had and probably will have, the solutions and the aid is all around me. It's tools. It's just like a dude, and maybe just to use this visualization, it's like a dude who in his garage has this fantastic toolbox full of amazing resources, right? These tools, and he has no clue how to use them. And he's forgotten they're even there.
Yeah.
He's neglected them. And there's cobwebs running all around the box. For many of us, I think that maybe that's the way that the relationships that we have in our life, maybe they're like that. Maybe, and as I think about this, I'm thinking about some guys I've had conversations with lately who are like, I think I was in a car trip somewhere with somebody, and the topic turned to something along the lines of like, your childhood relationships, the dudes you were friends with in little schools, and then high school and college. Like, how many of us in this car, we just sort of went around, who of us are still friends and who has the longest lasting friendship? And there were a few of us that and I'm very lucky in this way. I've got friends from kindergarten. I have multiple dudes that I talk to on a, not always daily, but at least a weekly and for sure monthly basis that go back to kindergarten and forward. And there are a couple of dudes in there who are like, yeah, I don't know. I have some work friends. That's what I think. Isn't that sad? Who are your closest buddies? A couple of guys at work and, my brother-in-law.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be tough. That's a guy going out into a garage with his wife's car broken and opens the drawer in the toolbox and there's nothing in it.
Man, I'm so impressed to hear you say, Justin, that the greatest tool for you is relationships. Like I really thought you would have said reading or
I kind of would have too.
Creative energy or just something. I don't know, but man. And then I think about that's how we're sitting here right now. That's how this has happened. You won the Father of the Year award. That's about relationship. I mean, dude, this is. I'm so glad that you're sharing that.
You brought something up. How we met. I reached out to you on Facebook some years back, and maybe actually it was just last year actually, and offered up a bike, right? And Mike, I hit you up on the phone a couple of years ago maybe, and to talk about moto stuff, because I was doing a lot of dual sport and KTM, and you were doing the same thing in town, and I didn't know you, but I could see our paths were crossing. And I didn't know either one of you. And I think a lot of people, they can't take that step. They can't reach out. In sales, it's called taking the up, right? Mm. So I was in sales for a long time, and my background's in sales and retail sales. I took a lot of ups. I was the youngest guy, I think I still am, that Foot Locker ever hired nationally. I sold shoes in a mall at Foot Locker when I was 15 years old. And I took the ups. And when we weren't slow, I'd walk out into the hallway in the mall and try and sell shoes, get people in the store because I was bored. And I think that I just have conditioned myself to be able to take the up, because it's scary to take the up. Most people, wouldn't reach out to you about the bike because they talk themselves out of it, because, well, maybe that guy's not going to like me, or he's not going to like my bike, or he's going to ruin it, or he's going to come to my house and now he's going to know where I live. And they get in their own head about it.
They rationalize themselves right out of an opportunity.
Right out of it, right? And they try and think too far down the road. Being a planner and doing all that's great, but sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and be like, hey, dude, what's up? And you're like, I don't know you. You're like, well, you do now.
Is that how you met your wife?
I met my wife on MySpace.
Oh, dang.
You took me up on MySpace.
I'm an up taker. And that's a story for another podcast.
So I want to shift over here into the financial stuff.
Yeah.
That's part of resourcefulness. I mean, in general, we talk about tools, but your expertise is in handling money and preparing for the future. When it comes to financial things, what do you think the typical man is doing wrong? Just the average Joe out there who can't seem to make ends meet. He's especially not able to get ahead. Why is that?
Yeah, that's a big question. And to generalize that is a difficult thing to do, but I think that there's numerous things that people can do, that men can do out there to maximize their finances. And, I'm in the investment business. I help people invest their money and make money with money, right? But at the core of that question, it really starts before that, because you have to acquire the money before you can fret about investing it, right? It's got to have your name on it. It's got to be in your bank account. And so, it comes right down to the core of doing something that has an income that supports your lifestyle and vice versa. And I think the easiest way for people to build wealth is to, number one, choose something as an occupation in your life that you truly love doing. If you hate going to work every day, unless they're paying you $1 million to show up, you should probably chase what you love, and the money will come. And unfortunately, I think I probably made some wrong choices early on. I know I did, because I was chasing the money, and I wasn't necessarily chasing what I wanted to be doing. I didn't go do what I wanted to do in my heart because I wanted to get paid. I wanted to buy a new 4-wheeler and go to the dunes and buy a new pickup. And, I wanted to have things. So, that made the first 20 years of my career, my work life, a lot harder, I think, because I was chasing money and not what, something that I was really, truly in love with doing.
Did you know what you could have been in love with doing back then? Like, what would you have done? Talking to yourself now, going back in time, you'd shake your shoulders and say, wake up, dummy.
Yeah, I would have gone in the military. Because I think that's the greatest foundation, one of the greatest foundations you can have in our society. And, I'm also a firm believer that, everything happens for a reason. And so I don't fret on that at all. But if I was to go back and tap 18-year-old me on the shoulder,
you'd say,
I'd join the military.
Get in service.
Yeah.
See where that one take you.
Yeah. And I started down that path. There was a kid on my street, a guy on my street that was older than me, and, another buddy that was on my street, that we were all enthralled with airplanes. And this kid was old enough that when we were going into high school, he was getting in his fighter jet. And we looked up to him. That was like the coolest thing ever. And this was back when you could do this, but I don't know if you still can. I doubt it. But he flew his F-18 Hornet fighter jet to our local municipal airport home for Christmas. And we went out to the airport and stood on the runway while he landed his fighter jet on the runway. And, we walked up to it and helped him out, and we pre-flighted the airplane when he left, and he put on a little air show for us. It was just, me and 2 other kids that we were like in high school. And this guy's, 5 years older than us. And
is he still in the military? Or did he get in trouble for that?
yeah, you could do that. That was like,
once upon a time, that was a thing.
It was a thing. Yeah. And, so I started down that path and, to answer your question, and, I got off of it. And that was when I started flying, actually, when I was 15, 16 years old when I first started flying, but then I got away from it. And, so yeah, to answer your question, hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't have my beautiful wife that I have today and my beautiful kids, and, life would be different today, no doubt. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I think it's important to follow what you really truly want to do, not the money, and the money will come. The people that I get to see in my business that are the most successful money-wise, they did something that they truly loved, or they had a gift for. They weren't just grinding the grindstone. They weren't just wheeling the wheel for somebody.
They're doing what they are.
Exactly. I truly believe that every single person on this planet is born with some special gift, at least one of them. And a lot of people, many, maybe they've multiple gifts, but there's things that they are naturally inherently better at than the majority of people around them. And I think if somebody can seek that out in themselves and be introspective and test the waters when they're young, maybe in a few occupations or jobs, and be open to new things. If you can find that, those are the people that are wildly successful.
So are those generally your clients? Would you say that you have that's the predominant of your client base, as opposed to the guy who's the lineman for the local utility, and he owns some rental houses and he's got some disposable income? He's not doing what he was like born for. I hear you saying, figure out what you're born for and then just freaking go for it.
Yeah.
As opposed to click into some, government job. Not that I'm throwing shade on anybody in any field at all, but that may not be where his heart is. That guy might have a heart for something else, but he's just grinding out those gears. Those guys aren't your clients.
Yeah. I have clients of all walks of life, but I have a little bit of a unique business in the sense that the investments that we make available to our clients are for accredited clients only. There's classifications. The Securities and Exchange Commission actually has different classifications of investors. Most people don't even know this exists. It's like a VIP section for investors. And
certain net worth or certain types of things like that.
Exactly. So there's non-accredited investors. A non-accredited investor in our society in the United States is somebody who is single and makes less than $200,000 a year, or if they're married, they make less than $300,000 a year. So both of those things are qualifiers to be accredited. Or if you have $1 million net worth, not including your primary residency. So those are the 3 qualifiers. And/or in our society, the SEC says that, well, if you make that kind of income or you have that kind of net worth, then you get to choose from this menu of investments over here. It's different than the menu of investments for everybody else.
So it's a little bit like coach, and then business, and then first class.
Exactly. So first class would be like qualified client. First class is you have $5 million net worth or more. Accredited would be business class, and then coach is non-accredited clients. And so there's actually investments that are specific to each, the public market, stock market, anybody can buy. Accredited investors have an additional menu of investments that nobody else even gets to see.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You can tell which bracket I'm in. If I knew that already, I would have been.
Which one is the bus? The city bus.
Which one is like flip-flop?
So to answer your question, yeah, I get to see this really incredible view, my clients of class of folks that have made a lot of money and have money to participate in that part of our society in investing. And I do think that there's a common thread that the majority of them they did something to acquire that money that they were especially good at. The trades are amazing. I love the trades, but I have a lot of dentists, doctors, business owners. I see the greatest amount of wealth being built by folks that I shouldn't say I don't have any tradesmen, because I have guys that owned trades companies.
They're the contractor.
Yeah, they were the owner, right?
They maybe came up in the trades and then
exactly. Those guys, if you can build something and sell it, that's the game changer wealth wise. When you build something you can pull the lever on, and somebody will write you a check for it. That's a game changer.
You guys ever heard of Grant Cardone? He's a kind of a speaker, and he's a real estate guy,
I know
wealthy guy. But he talks about, he has a book called the 10X Rule. Is it the 10X Rule?
Yeah, it's 10X. Yeah.
Anyway, he talks about, most people are happy to look at a 10% raise or something like that. He's talking about make it 10 times that. Make it.
Yeah, Grant's theory is if you want to make $200,000, you need to be aiming for $2 million. Forget about if you want to make $200,000, you need to make your goal 2 million. Everything's 10X.
So I just meet a lot of guys who they're working in these trades or whatever, and they just feel limited. Like that's about all they can do. This is what I do. I'm a truck driver. This is kind of where I'm at. This is my skill level. And it drives me, it motivates me to continue to see beyond where I am. But man, men are sometimes just so limited in what they believe they could even do. So they're never going to take the steps. They're never going to use the tool, even though they exist.
We live in a society that is very forgiving to those that have the balls to do stuff. Donald Trump's a good example of that. I think a lot of people know his story, so I'll use that analogy, but how many bankruptcies has that guy had? We live in a society that if you swing for the fence and you miss, you're probably going to be okay. You can BK and start over and swing for the fences some more. And I think that, a lot of guys could benefit from swinging for the fences a little more.
Get rid of the fear and just take some steps and take a risk.
Yeah.
There's another part of that too that I am the beneficiary of, and that is there's a lot of people who are very generous and then welcoming to someone they see swinging to the fence. So like when I started Takamoto, it was just me and my wife. Like we are truly, like no joke, we are a mom and pop operation. It is me, my wife, my 15-year-old kid, and then a handful of people who help us out. And there are people, I get emails all the time. I got an email today from a guy who said, "Thank you for the content you put up on YouTube. It helped me out of a jam when I had a problem, and I saw you instructed me and you taught me through this particular problem I had. I am now loyal to you. I will buy all of my motorcycle parts from you forever. Thank you very much for doing it. I don't care if you're," and he said something to the effect of like, "I don't even care if you're more expensive than the other guy. I'm going to get my parts from you."
You provided massive value.
Massive value. And so Tony Robbins talks a lot about it. The more value you put out into the world, the more the world will pay you for that value. It will pay you for your specialty. It will pay you for kind of what you're saying. It will pay you for your risk. It'll pay you for your guts. Mm-hmm. It'll pay you for your skill, for every bit of free. And here's something too that I have found that was taught to me, and then I am just practicing it. Give it away.
Yeah.
Give it away. Give away your knowledge. Give away. I almost said your time. I think that, yes, so I'm giving away my time. I do these, I make these videos or I write these instructional papers. I don't get any money. Well, YouTube pays me like $21 a quarter. So I guess I do make.
Ballin'.
Yeah, I'm totally like hitting hard on YouTube. So it's not exactly true that YouTube doesn't pay me, because they do, but it's insignificant. It's meaningless. So I do these things. They take my time. They take my resources. I invest in them, and they're free. And I will answer any question of anyone at any time. My phone kind of buzzes 24/7, and guys are like, "I have a thing and help me out." And I do. I am happy to give it away. And in return, the universe says, here is the reward of that. And it's loyal customers who are willing to patronize us for no other reason. There's other choices. There's better choices. We charge MSRP on all our parts. We don't really do discounts. We don't do like loyalty. There are places you can go buy your motorcycle parts, and every time you do an order, you get points and loyalty points and gimmicks like that. We don't do any of that. But yet I have people who are like locked in to us because we found, and to your point, Justin, we figured out what we were good at. And I say we intentionally. I'm not saying me. I'm saying we, because it's my wife and my son and the people that help us. We figured out what we're good at. We figured out how to share it, and to share it freely and generously and openly almost without limitation. There are some limitations, but almost without limitation. We give it away. We give it away. We give it away. And then we offer something of value, these parts and these components, and then we ask a fair market price for them. And we grow month after month after month after month. Our business grows.
Yeah.
And it is, to your exact point, it is because we figured out a way that we were uniquely talented or uniquely gifted, and then we poured into that. We like explored it and figured out, okay, well, what does that mean, and how would it look, and what could we do? And like we've spent a countless number of hours sort of trying to lay the foundation of how that would work and what it would look like, and then we deployed it, and then the universe was just like, F yeah, like we want that. So to the truck driver who's, Brad, this is such a great point. There's a guy right now listening to this who's a truck driver. What a gift you have. All that time on your hands to explore and examine and imagine what you could do. To the guy who's the shift worker and he's got a job that gives him and affords him a ton of boring time. How many people are out there? I've had these jobs where like I just sit there and waste away the most precious gift I have in life, and that is the breaths and the moments that I'm living. And I've just stared at paint on the wall. I've watched I remember when I was in high school, I had a job. I won't go into the detail because it's irrelevant, but I had this job and I sat at a desk and answered phones, and I watched a bug. I remember this so well. It's so vivid. I watched a bug just like for 20 minutes. It felt like that long. Just walk across the wall because I just did not have the imagination to do something more creative. That's you. You're telling just story of your 18-year-old self. That's me. I'm 18 years old, just watching this bug walk across the wall. What a dummy. I would go back and say, why didn't you learn another language? Why didn't you could have at 18 years old, me now in my current state, had I have applied myself then, think of the multiplier effect of where I could be now.
Yeah.
But no regrets. It is what it is. But I am certainly now at this moment in my life, not wasting a moment. I'm not watching bugs climb across the wall. I'm figuring out ways to amplify and maximize every tool, and then build tools and make tools, metaphorically speaking, invent new tools, make more tools, because it's not a zero-sum game. And if I do a new thing, it doesn't take away from anything. And this is what's so powerful about money too, and courage. And Brad, what you're talking about, it grows exponentially and infinitely. There's no ceiling. There's no limit. There's no limit to hope. There's no limit to ambition and desire. There's no finish line. It's forever and it's infinite. And friendships the same way. Like it's infinite and inexhaustible how deeply we can pour resources into those things and use those tools and amplify those tools. That is the great joy and beauty of life, is it's infinite. The possibilities are limitless.
Yeah. Brad, to a point that he made, you mentioned age. That's another massive multiplier in wealth. If you can get your shit together when you're young and you can put some money away on a consistent basis, you can literally invest it in anything. I mean, you can just buy S&P 500 totally vanilla mutual fund and just forget about it. And if you start when you're young and you just sow some money into that, the market's going to go up and the market's going to go down. But if you just forget about it, time heals. Time heals the market. And that thing produces like 6% annualized return over a historic period, And I mean, you start doing the math on the compounding interest of just, putting $500 away, a month or some significant savings, in an account that does that. You start young, you got more money than you know what to do with before you're 40.
Do you have any clients, any stories of people who did that? Or
I wish. I don't.
No,
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I wish I did. I mean, I feel like,
or maybe you don't know that that's where they got that first seed of their wealth.
Yeah, it's young and dumb is real.
You got 3 guys who can testify to that.
I'm gonna make my 18-year-old listen to this show. He listens to some of them, but I'll make sure he listens to that. It's interesting. You're talking about the compounding interest, and that's one of those things that, I was probably 30 years old before I ever even looked at any of those charts.
Yeah.
I was at a job and the HR person was like, here, you should invest, and here we match, and here, have you ever done the math on this? And look what would happen if you start when you're 25 versus when you're 45. If there are guys out there listening to this show that don't know what we're talking about, you need to Google.
Yeah, Google compounding interest calculator and just start punching numbers in and
just play with it, and you'll be amazed at what happens. You invest $100,000 over some period of time, and it turns out to be $2 million.
And the thing of it is $100,000's a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money, and it seems unobtainable. And I have seen people, I don't have any clients this way, Mike, but I have seen people that, they just started right from the get-go when they started school or started working, and they just put money away every paycheck, and they never dipped into it. They never loaned out of their 401k. They never, rescued themselves from a bad decision with their retirement fund at 25 years old because they changed a job and they could. They have a pile of money by the time they're 40 years old. And, I look back on, if I would have put a few $100s away, or up to $1,000 away a month, in an account like that from a fairly early age working, it probably wouldn't have changed my lifestyle any. But then when you're young, I thought that I needed new wheels on my truck. I needed to change the headlights that worked just fine on my pickup because these other headlights can't, you know what I mean? Like stupid shit like that. I mean, I think back about all the stupid shit like that I've bought. It's countless. I mean, if I still had that money today, whew.
You have this specialized knowledge. You have secret knowledge. We did a show a couple months ago called The Magician, and it was from this book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Basically, the magician is the person who has secret knowledge, but he shares it. So what made me think of this is what Mike's saying. He's not the street performer who's just doing tricks and never tells his secret. He shares his knowledge, but you have an understanding of how money works far beyond most everyone that I know personally. For sure with these SEC credentials and things like that. But how did you get it? How do you know the things that you know about how money works? When did it begin for you?
This is going to sound silly. It began when I was 5. I didn't realize that it had began when I was 5 until I was about 35. My parents got divorced when I was 5. My mom remarried. And the man that she remarried owned businesses. He owned one business when she married him, and he bought other businesses as time went on and grew his collection of businesses. And in the town that we lived in, he was the wheel. We had a shop by our house that, had a beer fridge in it and a pool table and a couple classic cars, and it had a bar in it and a poker table. And that's where business in town got done. At our house every night, it was the chief of police, the fire chief, the big business owners in town, the big landowners, the mayor. They were there drinking beer, playing cards. That was where things got done. And that was normal to me because I grew up in it. And I was exposed to it. And I didn't realize what kind of exposure that was until I was much older.
You had no clue how you're being trained.
None. Zero. I had no clue that information that I had been privy to from the time I was, this tall, 5 years old, was special information. so it's just exposure. Now I believe that's one of my gifts, that I get to do what I do today because I didn't realize how easily they came to me, or that knowledge came to me, as opposed to other people. And then when I did realize that, I was ready to get out of the retail business at that point, and it was a good transition. I had started down the financial services path, pretty fresh out of school. I was 20 something years old, and I looked like I was about 15, and I was going door to door to sell life insurance. I mean, it wasn't fun.
Tough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, sitting at people's kitchen table talking about, mortality isn't exactly.
You didn't love it. You didn't love it. You didn't really.
No, I didn't love it. Yeah. So I moved on, and I'm glad I did, but I found my way back to it.
Yeah. That's cool. So you've got this specialized knowledge, but you've had to approach people. You've had to talk to the business owners that you knew and the people that had the knowledge around you. Those people are already in your life, guys. You guys who are listening, there are people in your life who understand money in a much deeper way than you do. Do you know who they are? And are you willing to take the up?
Yeah, take the up. That's right.
Are you willing to open your mouth and admit your ignorance on a topic and just say, how does that, what the rule of 72, what do you mean? What is an annuity? And what do these words mean that I don't know what they are? Don't be afraid. You're a dummy if you don't ask the dumb question. So at some point you had to go back, you had to ask people things, you had to read things, talk about the evolution of your understanding of like how it all works. Cause I'm guessing you understand the political system, you understand the taxation, you understand so many aspects of this whole thing.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, in financial planning and in my business, yes, we quote unquote sell, investments, but before that, we do a lot of tax planning and help people do tax planning, because you can make all the money you want, but if you can't keep it from writing a check to the government for the majority of it or a big chunk of it, then you don't have it to invest. So if I was to send somebody anywhere to find a resource, there's a website called Investopedia, like Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
And Investopedia is basically Wikipedia for investments language. And you can sign up for free. You receive like an email newsletter that they put out daily. They have a text message that you can sign up for. It's totally free, all of it. I'm not affiliated with it in any way. I think it's a good site. And they'll send you an investment word of the day.
Oh, nice.
And it's like a text message that you get during the day. And it's some word that, the financial services industry, it's a little bit of an oddity in the sense that the financial service industry, in my purview, has, in general, created a language all to itself, really for a self-serving reason. And that is to confuse people.
So like the law.
Yes.
Just created jargon and lingo to make it self-exclusive and confusing.
Same thing.
To protect its own interests.
Correct. Financial services is the same thing.
Same with medicine or any specialized.
It doesn't need to be some silly, crazy name that you have to, can we just call it what it is? I mean, so part of financial services is language like law. And to me, it's not really complicated. And in my view, anything in investing that's complicated probably isn't good. Simple is better. If it's simple and you understand it, and move forward. If it's complicated and the person that's helping you buy it can't really explain it that well, the answer is no.
It's interesting you're talking about vocabulary. I think that's exactly why the judge is the judge and the attorney is the attorney and the doctor is the doctor. They've learned vocabulary.
They've learned those tools, right? So we're talking about tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aren't those tools within an industry?
Words are tools.
They are words.
Words, concepts, the sort of just the jargon and practices of an industry.
Dude, I have so much to learn. All right, so tools. The guy, the tradesman who's he's happy to get some overtime and he's far away from being set up for retirement and those kinds of things. What does the typical guy need to do? What tools would you recommend that he begin with And Mike, I don't know if you have some of those as well. Like, I don't know, people that you follow, courses that you take, and books that you've read, or internet tools out there. Where would you send a guy who wants to begin? People talk about Dave Ramsey or the different radio shows, or there's just different things where it's like, get a framework, get some steps. If you have zero money in the bank, let's start there. Get a little emergency fund, or there may be a class through your church, or
all good
there are things that are available. What are some 101 kind of basics where a guy might just to get a financial education?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if people just really get to the basics of it, that's the start. That's really, if you can get to the basics of Dave Ramsey's, really great about it's spending first. It's holding on to your money. Dave Ramsey, he has a whole financial advisory arm that is how he monetizes his business. And he gives away, like Mike does, the same business model. He gives away his knowledge on his radio show. And then, you go invest with his advisory. And I think that retail therapy is probably what costs most people their wealth.
Their future, huh?
Their future. Retail therapy. Sorry, Mike, because you're
motorcycle spending.
You're living on retail therapy,
those are
buddy.
necessities, though. Those are
yes. KTM parts are necessities. So, but I think retail therapy, it's gotten harder for guys today than it was in generations past. How much is a new Ford pickup today? $100,000. You look at the cost of goods today compared to as a percentage of a person's earnings based on our parents' generation and their parents' generation. And it's staggering. It's scary. And so when a guy goes out today and has a little bit of retail therapy, it has even bigger a drag effect on his future wealth and his future than it did for his father or his father's father.
Because grandpa was just he went out and bought a knife. He bought a new knife.
Yeah.
When he felt like he had a couple of, nickels in his pocket, they were wearing.
Yeah, it was an $8 buck knife.
Yep. He went and bought some new boots, some shiny new boots, and a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his truck he kept for 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And this keeping up with the Joneses is costing a lot of guys their future.
So in the pregame, we talked about money as a resource to buy time. Can you drop away from this? Finish out whatever that thought you were saying here, and then drop into the concept that the resource of money is just a piece of paper that represents power.
Yep.
And you can apply that power to anything you want. You could rub that power on a truck. If that's what you want, rub that power on fancy objects and shiny things, or you could rub that power on your own personal freedom.
So I absolutely. I completely agree with that. I know that for myself and other men that I've spoke to about this, they've had similar experiences or they want to have similar experiences in some cases where there's a time period where you look at your bank account and there's a dollar amount, but that dollar amount really actually is a new pickup, or that dollar amount is a new dirt bike, or you look at it and you're like, oh, I can go buy this new part or these new pieces or this new vehicle or this travel trailer.
A really great example of that is a stimulus check. I know people who have described that check as representing like X product.
Yeah.
Oh, this check, I can use it for
that's
a
our
gun.
Hawaii trip. Yeah.
Yeah. They just basically flip the dollar amount into like a gun.
Right. They look at the number and they don't see what they see in that number is a material item. They're exchanging that for a material item. Now, the argument can be made that, well, if I exchange that $1,400 for a gun, that gun's going to go up in value and inflation's going to eat the dollar. And, you can make that. But by and large, right? Like my headlight, my headlight example. My headlight example earlier, right? We buy stupid shit and things that aren't of value down the road or aren't going to appreciate. And there was a shift in my life that was very meaningful where I no longer saw those dollars in a bank account as a material item that I could now obtain. And I saw it as time. And I saw it as time that was going, and freedom to choose. Having money in the bank is one of the only ways that you have the ability. If you have a boss that you don't like, or a workplace that's not friendly to you, or there's some situation in your work life that you'd like to change, you'd like to make it change. I think so many people are handcuffed to where they can't make the change that they need to make. Maybe a boss you don't like wasn't a great analogy, because you could probably deal with that. But if you've got a job that you should be changing, or you should be changing careers, and maybe you need to go 6 months or a year without the same employment level that you have now. If you're strapped for debt and you don't have any money in the bank, you can't ever make that decision for yourself. And so when guys stop looking at that number in their bank account as a material item, and they start looking at it as freedom of options and choices in their life, of time, whether it be different job, different house, relocation, time with family, you look at it as time. Your work controls you less. Your paycheck to paycheck controls you less. And when you can make that shift, life changes for the better.
Dude, so I'm thinking about this guy. This is not a real story, but I'm thinking about the example of a dude who buys a Harley because it represents freedom, right? He's a working Joe. He's a tradesman. Okay.
Yeah.
So he sees this object, and it represents this image of freedom and independence.
Yeah.
And then he puts a loan on it.
Yeah.
And it handcuffs him to this fantasy of freedom. Yet his reality is he is now more tied to the job he hates, and the hours he hates, and the commute he hates, working in a trade that he's kind of over and wish he could evolve past, with this fantasy chase of freedom that is in effect more handcuffs.
It sits in his garage.
And for most of the time, it sits in his garage. So to those dudes out there who love the concept of freedom and think it's found in objects and then accumulating debt to service those fantasies of freedom, that is a complete fool's chase.
Yep.
And I think we've all been there.
Yeah. And
it is a level of maturity that Justin's describing, where you kind of evolve through that and you say, bullshit, that doesn't work. That's not true freedom. True freedom is, in fact, something that looks quite different. True freedom is owning everything you have outright.
Yeah.
True freedom is owing no one anything. No one has a hook in you. You're able to say at any point, this is true freedom, at any point to just change directions 180 degrees and say, I don't want to do that thing anymore. And I have complete latitude over my time and the wherewithal of who I am to just stop that.
Yeah.
To just look at something and just say, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, regardless of even what it is.
Yep.
And to just turn a corner and go a different direction. And then not even look back.
And you don't have any of the I got a truck payment and a razor payment and a travel trailer, and you got all this overhead that you've created that owns you. You mentioned I'm a pilot. I mean, I think a lot of guys know I'm a pilot, and I love airplanes, and I have like an old beater airplane.
It's funny. I actually looked that up because I'm like, this freaking guy. I asked Justin one time, dude, what kind of cash you got to be able to do these kind of things? You go on vacation for 6 months at a time and stuff like that, and flying all over, and dirt bikes and all these cool things. And he said, well, it's really about time. But when you posted your plane, I Googled your airplane. I was like, this fool is making good decisions. That's why he's doing it like this. Anyway, I looked it up and I saw it was a little bit older.
Yeah, it's 1960. It's 60 years old. And I would love to have a newer, faster, slicker airplane.
State of the art.
Yeah, I would love that.
F-18.
Oh, I'd love it. But I own my airplane. I paid cash for it. And everything that I do to it, I pay cash for. And there's a freedom in that. And it's less ball and chain. I can enjoy that. Even though that airplane's 60 years old, I put some money into it that I had in cash, and I made it what I wanted it to be. And, I have guys that have the $250,000 plane that I look at and I'm just like, oh my God, what's that like to have and fly? And, you know, I dream about that. And they're looking at my plane like, dude, you did it right. Dude, that plane's sick. You know, I'm literally in my plane, less money. Like I have friends that have more money in their Razors and their Can-Am side-by-sides than I do my airplane. And they still like, they're like, dude, how do you do the airplane thing? I'm like, bro, I don't have a Razor.
So I think you're making a point here that we could spin off on, and it doesn't matter if you're the tradesman at that income level. You could also be the guy who is the high flyer living at the fancy gated community, and you're still handcuffed. So income level is irrelevant.
Absolutely.
You and I, both, all of us probably know dudes who outwardly
stretch,
they outwardly look like they are high flying. They like balling. You don't have a care in the world. Dude. You're going to the games, you're flying, you're doing the thing. I look at your Instagram, you're like, you know, driving the Lambo and whatever. And yet that dude can be just as ball strapped. He could have the same kind of handcuffs as just the, you know, the working guy.
You just got a $12,000 a month nut. That's all that is.
That is the same exact thing. So freedom, the kind of freedom that we're talking about, the kind of freedom I hope that you're catching the vision for, income is irrelevant. Really, the final number is irrelevant. It's all about how you use it once you spend it on.
Oh, absolutely.
So who cares what your relative income is? It's what your outflow is. And Justin is laying out a fantastic case. You could look, now I know this guy and I know that he's got a ranch, this airplane, just sold a great, beautiful motorhome, cool house. He's got all the things, great motorcycles. But I will tell you that some of these, and he just confessed that airplane it's an older model.
Yeah.
And that motorhome wasn't top of the line.
No, it was 10 years old.
And the other thing, you could click through, I'm not going to embarrass him by clicking through his portfolio, but the point I want to make, and maybe a little bit on my side too, like I have a lot of motorcycles, but a lot of them are older. And my truck that I drive is probably 20 years old at this point, and I'm not going to replace it. And I look at, Justin talked about, you look at the number, and I do that too. Sometimes I look at the number. I'm like, there's a couple of new trucks here, and there's this, and there's that. I'm going to do it. And so for me, what freedom is, this is what freedom represents. Freedom represents looking at the number and then fantasizing for a moment, allowing myself to think like, whoa, shit, like
I could.
That number now, it's fun. I like it. I like to fantasize and think that number equals X or Y or whatever. And I like to take it a moment to do that. And then I move past, because I know what happens. I know what would happen if I was to pull the trigger on that little urgy desire.
Yeah.
Then I got another thing I had to take care of that is very high value, that requires, like my crappy old truck, I park it anywhere. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
But if I had a fancy Raptor, I would think twice about running down to Mexico as often as I do, and parking where I do, and throwing dirt bikes in the back of it. It just would cause me hassle and headache and drama that I don't want.
Right.
So I'm happy to drive my crappy old truck. That represents, I could crash that truck and not even weep a tear.
Right. I think the point here is it all comes back to, you got to have a job that you love, spend wisely. Don't use retail therapy for therapy.
Use Brad for
use
therapy.
Brad. Use Brad
and the Alpha Quorum.
And the Alpha Quorum, yeah. And
motorcycles and dirt bikes.
when you're at a place where it is time in your life, because there is plenty of guys in the Alpha Quorum that are plenty successful, very successful guys in there, that do invest, and they do have portfolios that they manage of their own. And there's lots of guys that are tradesmen that come out of the trades with a whole boatload of money, in 401k accounts, and guys that are unions that have these big pensions and whatnot. When you do find yourself in that space, get outside of the retail world. That's my only, advice in that space. There's a huge world outside of Edward D. Jones and Raymond James and Charles Schwab and Wells Fargo. That is equivalent to, there's probably guys on here and they're going to kill me, but Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, that's the same. That's fast food. And there are other places to eat. And
like secret hole in the wall, amazing joints. Yeah.
And I've never advertised $1 in my life. and I never will, other than like, motorcycle rides or advertisement. But that's how those places are. The guys that have access to the really, really great investments out there, they don't need to advertise. There's more money being thrown at them than there are deals available, frankly. And so my advice to guys that are in the space that do have dollars to invest in portfolios that they manage of their own, look to diversify in other asset classes. Something that people should Google for themselves is the endowment style of model of investing. It's called the Endowment Model. And it was made famous by Yale and Stanford and some of these other big college endowments, that they don't invest like a normal investor invests. They use different allocations where they add in, a lot of real estate, a lot of multifamily housing, bare land for infill development. There's a lot of different asset classes that they invest in heavily outside of the public marketplace. So to anybody listening to this that has access by being an accredited investor, do some research out there. There's a lot of investments out there that have very little volatility because they're non-tradable, and they're a lot more stable. You can really stabilize a portfolio by using non-traded investments when it's suitable for the right investor.
Boom. So I just pulled up Investopedia.
Mm-hmm.
How to invest like an endowment. Bookmarked. Reading this later.
Dude, I think what I'm getting from this, and we're going to wrap this up, and I want you to plug your business here and tell guys how to get in touch with you. But a lot of this seems to be about whatever you're doing, whatever level you're at, there's a way to do it better. There's a way to leverage it better. There are more resources than you could imagine available. The thing itself, the money, the jobs, the opportunities, or the tools, the people, the men, they're all around there. You just have to take the up. You got to take the opportunity. You got to take some risk and believe that you belong in that space. I do want to talk about one other thing, and just about how people see money. You see people sometimes, the super spiritual poor guy who talks about money is the root of all evil. And we've got entrepreneur here, Taco Mike, who is one of the most humble people that I know and does not at all seem to be a materialistic person. And yet he's in business for himself and it's booming. You also seem to be a humble guy in your soul a little bit there, Justin, but this is something that you recognize as opportunity. You're talking about time. You see it as something more than it is. Money is the root of all evil. My wife says that all the time about the terrible things going on in the world. It's actually misquoted Bible verse that says the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is a resource. It's just a tool. And Mike talked about, you can throw it, you can donate it, you can give it away, you can throw it at a stripper, you can do whatever you want with your money. It's just a resource. But an alpha is resourceful. He knows how to get it. He knows how it works. He knows the language. He knows these words that nobody ever teaches you. You have to go seeking it, knowing that whatever I'm doing, there's a way to multiply it.
Absolutely.
Whatever I'm doing, there's a way to grow it and make it more powerful, because my obligation, my responsibility is to give and love and to serve and to be charitable and to provide for my family and to teach them to continue to do the same. I just think so much of this is about mindset, vocabulary, attitude, opening your mouth, asking the question, researching the topics. Justin, how do guys get a hold of you?
My business name is John Galt Wealth Solutions, johngaltwealth.com. And our phone number's on there. And anybody on this group wants to reach out to me, call me, ask me any questions, I'm always available. And call.
What if they're not an accredited investor?
Oh, that's fine. I don't charge a fee.
You look down on us little pleons.
Yeah, stuff it.
You'll talk to us.
So,
hey, this dude reached out to me to let me borrow his bike. That's the kind of man we're talking about. He didn't need anything from me. He was courageous in giving. So I just really appreciate you being here, man. We've got some other topics we're going to pursue here a little bit later. Any closing thoughts, Mike, Justin?
Make it, keep it, grow it. That's no matter where you're at in life, you're doing one of those three things with wealth. You're either trying to figure out how to make it, you're figuring out how to keep it, you're figuring out how to grow it. And so everybody's in that one of those stages. And there's a way to better that in every stage.
Taco Mike,
My turn?
any closing words?
Yeah, I think money represents power. So I don't think money is the root of all evil. I think the desire, the love of power is the root of all evil. So money to me represents little pieces of power. So every time I have a piece of, but think about it. When you have a little piece of paper and it has a number on it, that represents the amount of power that is trapped into that piece of paper.
It's a token.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either got a 1 on it or a 100. And people will respond to the power of a 1 much different than the power of a 100. And so a piece of money is a token of power. It's a representative of power. And so my philosophy is it's the love of power that's the root of all evil. And so if I love power, then I will love money and I will use it to destroy myself. That's the end game. The end game of power is self-destruction. However, if my end game is community and relationship and tribe, then I will use money as a tool, no different than I could use a hammer to kill someone, or I could use a hammer to fix something. And so a tool, a knife in my toolbox can be very helpful, or I could kill something or hurt something with it. And so just like the tools in my box are either it's an asset or a liability to me, so is my money. And then the emotion that I apply to it, and then the way I vision the use of that money. And so I want to have a fuck ton of money because I want, just for the same reason, I want to have a big ass toolbox. I want to have in my garage every tool out there. And I like tools, and I find that tools save me time, and they save me effort, and they save me energy, and they help me be more productive, and they help me help people. And so I would like to have all the money.
You know, there's a saying for that. Since we're using the F word, you know, there's a saying for that, right?
What's that?
It's called "F you money."
Yeah, I do know that one. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy who has, and it's interesting that I've come to this philosophy. I've gotten to this mindset, and it hasn't been forever. I remember it's only been the last little bit that I have come to this mental place of like, I want to have a fuck ton of money because I want to use it. I want to have the ability to, for the same reason I want to have all those tools, for the same reason I want my tribe to encompass everything possible to do as much good. I want to write big, old, fat, stupid, sloppy checks to that farmers group. That farm aid thing, I want to
You want to go on YouTube, they make you cry, you write them a check.
I want to watch a YouTube video that makes me cry, and I want to write them just a big, stupid ass sloppy check. And I want it to be anonymous.
Yeah.
And I want it, and I do things in a very, I'm a micro philanthropist, very small, and it's all secret. And whenever I interact with somebody in their little organization, I specifically say that I don't exist. This is not for me. I don't want any credit. Do not put my name on a list. I never want to see my name ever.
Is that because you never want it misconstrued as advertising? Or you don't, or self-serving?
Yes and no. So yes, I don't want it to look like it's self-serving, but I also believe in the model of philanthropy that Jesus taught, that the apostles taught. I believe in the New Testament version of philanthropy where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And so the right hand its ego can't be inflated. Any wealth that I have and accumulate, it's a gift. Like I was given a little spark, or there's a little something inside of me that it was just there. I didn't work for it. It was just a gift. And so if I have a tool, I just wanted to give it away. And I don't want to parade. I don't want my name on a check. I don't want streamers. Just take it and do good with it. So.
I know that Mike does that. I've seen, my wife had there was a little cause that she had her birthday donation thing or whatever that she had. And it was something that was very special to her and something that Mike knew about that we were going through. And there was an anonymous donor of a high amount, of a high ratio of the total goal. And I knew that it was Mike. I believe that Mike was the person who did that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because it was a high number and it was anonymous. That's got his fingerprint all over. So I love that whole thing, that it's about power. And what you choose to do with that power is as far as possible, anonymously bless other people. You want to be able to do the things that are important to you, which I know happens to be about selflessness and so forth. dude, you guys, I'm telling you, we got to grow the audience, because this thing, when you said, make it, keep it, grow it, that applies probably to every good thing that you have in your life. And we've got to do that for this. We got to double the size of our listenership before we post this podcast, because it's very valuable. So thank you, man, for being here, Justin.
Absolutely.
Taco Mike,
you're
always just a stud, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
This stuff is good. Remember to take a picture of you with the with your little trophy and your little $100. His little $100. He's going to buy some airplane parts with that $100 Visa card.
I am.
Thanks, you guys. Hey, thanks for joining in. No excuses. Alpha up.
Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.